Welcome to the second video lecture for English 421Y. The topic for this video is tailoring, or the process of refining employment materials to fit one specific company or position. For the first unit project, I have asked you to select a specific job advertisement, position posting, or program description for a graduate or professional program. Even if you already have an existing resume, I want you to make specific decisions about what to include or not to include in order to tailor your materials for this specific position. Tailoring is something that takes time and will strengthen with every draft you write. In this video, I'm going to go over some basic information about tailoring specific to this assignment, and then look at a couple of the readings that we will be doing to kind of introduce some key concepts that will be important for this project. When a document is tailored, the author uses careful research to create an alignment between the needs of the company and the qualifications of the applicant. I think about it as alignment because you're taking the experiences, skills, knowledge, and abilities that you have and matching it with their expectations, their requirements, what they list in the job description, and then things that you know about them as a company. The key word here is research. You need to do research to understand what their needs are. Otherwise, you're just sort of putting your experiences out there but not aligning them with what the reader is going to be looking for. We can't know for sure what an employer wants, but we can use available information to make strategic and rhetorical, which I'll explain in a second, choices. That information often includes a job advertisement or position posting, of which I'm asking you to find one, an official company website or social media page like a Facebook or Twitter page, news media and press releases about the company, mission statements, company history or annual reports, and finally a recruiter or other representative who you might meet at a career fair or industrial round table or whatever. While these materials aren't always public or easy to find, if you can locate them, they offer information that will help you make an educated guess about what the company looks for in an employee, while also showing them that you have put effort into learning more about them as a company. Beyond an obligatory sentence in your cover letter stating which company you are applying to and that you think they're great, I would like you to integrate key terms and background information learned through research into your documents and make direct connections between your qualifications and the position to which you are applying. Perhaps most importantly, a close analysis of the job description and a company website can provide you with clues as to what the company values. So one of the readings that we will be doing focuses on tailoring your resume, cover letter, and interview to make sure that each aspect of the application process is based on information about the company. For instance, the skills and responsibilities included in a job ad or the list of past clients on a website offer points of alignment that you can match with your own experiences. As this reading notes, tailoring resumes typically involves adding key terms from the job requirements or description, rearranging content to prioritize the most relevant information using bullets and emphasis, and generally modifying the language of your resume to reflect the language in the job description. These simple strategies allow your materials to reflect the language and qualifications of the employer. You do want to balance it. You don't want to make it so obvious. So one thing that you can do is to change some keywords or to use language from your positions that are synonymous with or similar to the language used in the job descriptions. Again, this reading will give you a lot more information about how to do that in your own work. Another one of the readings that we will be doing is called Utilizing the Job Description to Create Your Cover Letter, and we'll be doing this for, I believe, the first activity. This provides a strategy for integrating key terms and requirements from the job description into your cover letter, and I strongly recommend that you do it pretty much anytime you develop a cover letter or a resume. But in this case, tailoring means finding specific things. Here's an example of a job description. Finding specific things in the responsibilities, desired skills, and description of the position, and then using that in the materials that you develop. In this case, they're talking about a cover letter, but the same principle works for a resume. Taking language, taking phrases, taking skills, abilities, tools, and plugging that in strategically throughout your materials. One thing that I really like in this example is that the tailoring doesn't just happen in the introduction or conclusion, but rather it happens throughout. You can see by highlighting both the materials in the job description and then going back and highlighting where they've actually done it, you can see just the extent to which that this letter has actually been tailored. Again, that's something that we're going to be doing in Activity 1. I'm going to actually have you go and highlight a job description and then pull out keywords in a worksheet so that you can then integrate that information into your work. Most importantly, you can see that in this example, they are tailoring it for one specific position. Your cover letter and your resume should never be treated as a template. You should rarely ever submit the same resume to dozens of jobs. Sometimes that's inevitable, especially when you're applying to graduate programs that use a single sort of core upload system where every school that you're applying to gets the same letter or gets the same resume or whatever. If you do have the ability to tailor a document, you should do so because it shows that you have put the extra effort into indicating that you are a good fit for what they're looking for. I've used this strategy in my own employment materials and found that calling attention to areas of alignment between myself and, in this case, I'm applying for professor positions, really allows me to get very concrete. I know what they're expecting. I know what I'm good at, and I'm able to make a convincing argument for how the two overlap. As should be clear, how exactly you tailor your document depends entirely on the job for which you are applying. This position becomes your rhetorical situation, a term that describes the context, audience, and purpose for any written or verbal communication. We're going to be doing a reading from a book called Understanding Rhetoric. In this first chapter, the co-authors argue that rhetoric is, quote, a way of thinking about how we talk that takes into consideration the entire situation in which that talk takes place. On page 59 here of Understanding Rhetoric, the co-authors present 6 questions for rhetorical analysis. While these questions are tools for interpreting texts, we can also apply all 6 to our own writing. For example, the question, what is the purpose of this text, can be asked, can be useful when you're writing a cover letter. Your purpose might be to get a job, but think about what you actually want to communicate to a potential employer. For instance, the fitness of your qualifications, your relevant experience, your professionalism, your ambition, your goals, your attitude, etc. An audience takes this one step further. Your qualifications might be the same, but how you present them, what you say about them, and how they align with the job description or the company all depend on the position and the employer for which you are writing. Learning how to adapt your employment materials using cues from the rhetorical situation of the job description is the heart of tailoring. While tailoring is admittedly more than just using the same resume and cover letter for every job, there is a clear difference between employment materials with superficial connections to the job and those that integrate this information consistently and creatively throughout the document. Looking back at the highlighted cover letter in utilizing the job description, if this letter were written for another company, we would expect it to look totally different because, again, the rhetorical situation is different. What one company is looking for is going to be different from what another company is looking for. You are going to show a different version of your professional experiences and skills and abilities based on what that company wants. Every time you apply for a job, you should revise your existing materials thoroughly and thoughtfully to effectively reflect your new rhetorical situation. I realize that's an ideal. You don't always have the time to do so, but if it's a job that you especially care about, something that you really, really want, you should take extra time to research the company, research the position, include that information in your materials, and again, work for that alignment between what you do and what they want. I want to end this lecture by thinking for a moment about why employment materials are included in a course on technical writing. Beyond preparing you to enter your chosen profession, Learning about these documents will help you understand how employers use them to complete their work. A job description is part of the professional writing of a company. It's a document that companies spend a lot of time shaping, crafting, writing deliberately to reflect their needs, to reflect the kinds of employees that they want, and to include information that will help them attract the best talent available. We often treat resumes and cover letters as writer-centered documents. That is, when I'm applying for a job, I make sure that my resume communicates my qualifications, that my cover letter details my experiences, and that together they represent my professional identity to a potential employer. But what if we think about resumes and cover letters as a user-centered document? Not a writer-centered document, but a reader-centered document. To put it another way, who actually uses a resume and what do they use it for? This is the kind of questions that are asked in the field of professional writing. How is a document made and why? In a sense, employment materials are part of a company's workflow and are used by hiring managers or a hiring or admissions committee for graduate school, secretaries who input information and upload files, human resources staff who need to take that information and put it into HR files or employee records, and other employees as part of their regular responsibilities. They are most commonly used to find the best candidate and to narrow prospective interview choices. But other purposes might include identifying a candidate with a particular set of skills or abilities, screening out those candidates who are unfit or underprepared, filling a specific need or niche within a company, matching a specialized candidate with a team or department that needs their assistance, or bringing in someone with fresh ideas for a new direction that's different than what a company had previously done. Resumes and cover letters also have far more mundane uses that are tied to their status as technical documentation. For instance, they provide information that can be entered into an employee database, copied over for HR paperwork as part of the hiring process, or used by supervisors to expedite the training process. In my past experiences as an assistant manager, we frequently looked at people's resumes when we were going over training videos and training files to figure out what do they already know and what do we want them to know. So resumes perform a key function for companies that goes well beyond the interview and involves a diverse array of potential users and professional tasks. That means that a poorly organized and sloppily designed resume makes users' work that much more difficult because they have to spend extra time searching for information that should be clearly visible and accessible. In the next lecture, we'll talk about principles of design and methods of organization for resumes that result in a document that is user-friendly, enables quick reading or skimming, and follows expected conventions of the genre. Finally, I want to end with some advice for revision. You should get in the habit of updating the content of your resume at least once a month, and the design and layout at least once a year. Resumes are living documents in that they become out of date almost as soon as you write them. As soon as you put your qualifications and skills and current work experiences onto a piece of paper, you do other things, and then you have to go back and update them. Rather than allowing your resume to become inaccurate and static, you should think of it as a document that is always under revision, always in progress. You're always going to the next iteration. Sometimes the changes will be entirely updating work experience or adding a few bullets to make your work experiences more relevant or current. Sometimes they will be purely cosmetic changes, like using a more modern font or adjusting spacing to fit extra content. Other times you might want a more drastic overhaul to experiment with a different layout or add more visual appeals such as color or lines or different columns or whatever. In whichever case, viewing the resume as a document always under revision means seeking out opportunities to make changes rather than waiting until changes are necessary or overdue. I can't stress how many times I hear people say some version of, I know I should update my resume, but I just haven't. Or, man, I haven't updated my resume in a year. That's a really bad habit to get into. You don't need to make a ton of changes, but looking at it once a month, making sure that all of your information is relevant even when you're not currently looking for a job. If you wait until you're looking for a job and then you have to go back and make months or years worth of changes, you might forget something, or you increase the chance that you're not going to have a comprehensive document. You also put yourself in a situation where you never know when the perfect job might appear. And if you have to take extra days to revise all of your materials, that slows down the process for you. This is also a key lesson for all revision. Revision should be something you choose to do in order to improve the quality of your work, not something you have to do because someone tells you to. Again, it's a good habit to embrace revision and get in the habit of always revising your materials consistently and thoroughly. That's it for today. Everyone have a wonderful week.